I, 24F, have been with my boyfriend Gunnar, 26M, for about 8 months. He's honestly amazing, thoughtful, funny, and we have great chemistry. But something happened yesterday that has me completely overthinking everything, and I'm not sure if I'm being paranoid or if my instincts are trying to tell me something. For context, Gunnar and I don't come from the same financial background. He works in tech and makes really good money, while I'm a teacher and live pretty paycheck to paycheck. This has never been an issue between us. Gunnar is never condescending about money and always insists on paying when we go out, which I appreciate but sometimes feel guilty about. Yesterday was my birthday, and Gunnar gave me a gift that completely blew me away but also kind of freaked me out. He presented me with a custom jewelry box that he had made specifically for me. Not just any jewelry box. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's made from this beautiful dark wood with intricate inlay work, and inside there are compartments that are perfectly sized for specific pieces of jewelry that I own. The craftsmanship is incredible. There are little velvet-lined sections that fit my grandmother's ring exactly, a special compartment for the necklace I wear every day, and even a spot for my watch that holds it at the perfect angle. The whole thing probably took months to plan and create it. But here's where it gets weird, and where I think I might be overthinking things. This jewelry box shows an incredibly detailed knowledge of my jewelry collection that I don't remember sharing with Gunnar. He knows about pieces that I rarely wear, including some that I keep in a small box in my bedroom dresser that I don't think he's ever seen me access. For example, there's a perfect compartment for a pair of earrings that belong to my grandmother that I've only worn maybe twice in the entire time we've been dating. There's also a spot for a bracelet that I got as a gift years ago but almost never wear because it doesn't really match my style. When I asked Gunnar how he knew about all these pieces, he said that he's very observant and that he pays attention when I mention jewelry or when he sees me getting ready in the mornings. But I've thought about it, and I'm pretty sure I've never mentioned some of these pieces to him. The earrings I mentioned are sentimental, but I rarely talk about them, and the bracelet is something I honestly kind of forget I even own most of the time. There's also the fact that this jewelry box must have cost a fortune. When I looked up similar custom woodwork online, pieces like this easily cost $2,000 to $3,000 or more. For someone I've only been dating for 8 months, that seems like an incredibly expensive and intimate gift.
My friends are split on this.
My best friend thinks it's romantic and that I should be grateful to have such a thoughtful boyfriend. She says that maybe Gunnar is just really observant and that some people are naturally good at noticing details. But my other friend thinks the whole thing is kind of creepy, and that Gunnar must have been going through my things to know about jewelry pieces that I don't wear regularly. I try to think back to times when Gunnar might have seen my jewelry collection, and while he's been in my bedroom plenty of times, I don't remember him ever showing particular interest in my dresser, or the small jewelry box where I keep my less frequently worn pieces. The more I think about it, the more I'm wondering if Gunnar has been going through my personal belongings when I'm not around. We've exchanged keys to each other's apartments, ostensibly for emergencies or convenience, but now I'm wondering if he's been using his key to my place for other purposes. But then I feel guilty for thinking this way, because Gunnar's gift really is beautiful and clearly took a lot of time, effort, and money to create. If he went through my jewelry just to make me the perfect gift, maybe that's romantic rather than invasive. I'm also wondering if there's something else going on. The expense of this gift seems disproportionate to our relationship timeline, and I can't shake the feeling that Gunnar might be overcompensating for something. Like, why would someone spend thousands of dollars on a custom gift for someone they've only been dating for 8 months? Is he feeling guilty about something? Is he trying to distract me from something else? I know this probably sounds paranoid, but I've been in relationships before where guys would give me expensive gifts when they were hiding something or felt guilty about their behavior. When I tried to talk to Gunnar about how expensive the gift was, he brushed off my concerns and said that he wanted to do something special for my birthday and that the cost didn't matter to him. But it matters to me because it creates this weird imbalance in our relationship where I feel like I could never reciprocate with something equally thoughtful or expensive. I asked Gunnar if there was any special reason he wanted to give me such an elaborate gift, and he said that he just loves me and wants me to know how much I mean to him. This was actually the first time Gunnar has said he loves me, which made the whole situation even more confusing. Is the expensive gift his way of expressing love, or is he using the declaration of love to deflect from questions about the gift? I feel like I'm going crazy analyzing this situation, but something about it just doesn't feel right to me. The jewelry box is sitting on my dresser now, and every time I look at it, I feel this weird combination of appreciation for the craftsmanship and unease about how Gunnar knew exactly what to make. I'm also noticing other things about Gunnar's behavior that I might have overlooked before. He always seems to know things about my schedule or my plans that I don't remember telling him. He'll mention conversations I had with friends or coworkers that I'm pretty sure I didn't share with him. When I've asked Gunnar how he knew about these things, he always has a reasonable explanation. He overheard a phone call, or I mentioned it in passing, or he saw something on my social media. But now I'm wondering if Gunnar has been paying closer attention to my life than I realized, and not necessarily in a romantic way. I'm torn between feeling grateful for such a thoughtful gift and feeling suspicious about how Gunnar acquired the knowledge to make it. Am I in the wrong for being paranoid about my boyfriend's expensive and personal gift? Should I just appreciate the thought and effort he put into it? Or are my concerns about privacy and boundaries valid? I don't want to ruin a good relationship by being suspicious and paranoid, but I also don't want to ignore red flags if they're really there. Update 2 days later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. The feedback helped me realize that my instincts were telling me something important, and I needed to investigate further rather than just dismissing my concerns as paranoia. I decided to do a little test to see if Gunnar really was as observant as he claimed, or if there was something else going on. Yesterday morning, I deliberately moved some items around in my apartment before leaving for work. I moved a few books on my bookshelf, rearranged some items on my bathroom counter, and most importantly, I moved my small jewelry box from my dresser to a different location in my bedroom closet. I didn't tell Gunnar I was doing this, and I made sure the changes were subtle, nothing that would be immediately obvious unless someone was specifically looking for these items. When I came home from work, Gunnar was already at my apartment. He had texted me that he was stopping by to cook dinner for us. Everything seemed normal at first, but when I went to my bedroom to change clothes, I noticed that my jewelry box had been moved back to its original location on my dresser. I was pretty sure I had hidden it well enough that Gunnar wouldn't have found it accidentally, which meant he had been deliberately looking through my bedroom. I decided to confront Gunnar about this directly. I asked him if he had been in my bedroom while I was at work, and he said yes. He had gone in there to get a sweatshirt he'd left there. When I asked him about the jewelry box, Gunnar initially seemed confused and said he hadn't touched it. But when I pressed him on it, he admitted that he had noticed it was in a weird place and had moved it back to where it belonged. I asked Gunnar how he knew where the jewelry box belonged since it was my apartment and my belongings, and he said that he just remembered where it usually was from previous visits. But this explanation didn't make sense to me because I had deliberately put the jewelry box in a location where it wouldn't be visible unless someone was specifically searching through my closet. I told Gunnar that I was uncomfortable with him moving my personal belongings around and that it felt invasive for him to be going through my bedroom when I wasn't home. Gunnar got defensive and said that he wasn't going through anything and that he had just noticed the jewelry box was out of place and had put it back where it belonged. He also said that he was hurt that I was questioning his motives when he was just trying to be helpful and considerate. But the more we talked about it, the more inconsistencies I noticed in Gunnar's explanations. I asked Gunnar to show me exactly where he had found the jewelry box, and he pointed to a spot in my closet that would have required him to move several other items to access. This wasn't somewhere he would have found the jewelry box accidentally while getting a sweatshirt. When I pointed out this inconsistency, Gunnar became more defensive and accused me of setting some kind of trap for him. He said that he felt like I was testing him and trying to find reasons not to trust him, which wasn't fair given how much effort he had put into my birthday gift. I told Gunnar that I hadn't been trying to trap him. I had just been trying to understand how he knew so much about my jewelry collection. Gunnar said that he had been trying to create a meaningful gift for me, and that he was hurt that I was making it into something suspicious and negative. But I told Gunnar that the issue wasn't the gift itself. It was the fact that he had apparently been going through my personal belongings without my knowledge or permission in order to create the gift. Gunnar said that he had been observant about my jewelry when I wore it, and that he had only looked through my jewelry box a few times to get the measurements right for the custom compartments. This was the first time Gunnar had admitted to actually going through my jewelry box, and I was upset that he had been doing this without asking me. I told Gunnar that looking through my personal belongings without permission was a violation of my privacy, regardless of his good intentions. Gunnar said that he hadn't thought it was a big deal since we were dating, and he was trying to do something nice for me. But I told Gunnar that being in a relationship didn't give him the right to go through my personal belongings without asking. The conversation ended with both of us frustrated and upset. Gunnar said that he felt like I was punishing him for being thoughtful, and I said that I felt like he was violating my privacy and then minimizing my concerns about it. Since then, Gunnar has been sending me texts apologizing for overstepping but also saying that he thinks I'm overreacting to the situation. Update 2 to 1 week later. The situation with Gunnar has developed in ways that have confirmed my worst fears about his behavior, and I've discovered that his violations of my privacy go much deeper than I initially realized. After our conversation about the jewelry box, I started paying closer attention to Gunnar's behavior and the things he seemed to know about my life. Over the past week, I've noticed that Gunnar consistently knows details about my day that I don't remember sharing with him. He'll ask about specific conversations I had with coworkers or mention plans that my friends made that I'm certain I didn't tell him about. I started keeping track of these instances, and I realized that Gunnar often knows things that I've only discussed in text messages or during phone calls when he wasn't around. This made me suspicious that Gunnar might be monitoring my communications somehow, but I wasn't sure how that would be possible. Then yesterday, something happened that made everything click into place. I was at Gunnar's apartment, and he was in the shower when his phone started buzzing with notifications. The phone was sitting on his kitchen counter, and the screen kept lighting up with alerts. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I couldn't help but notice that the notifications were coming from an app one didn't recognize. The preview showed what looked like text message conversations, but they were labeled with my name. When Gunnar got out of the shower, I asked him about the notifications on his phone. He seemed flustered and said they were just work messages, but I had clearly seen my name on the notification previews, so I knew that wasn't true. I told Gunnar that I had seen notifications with my name on them, and I wanted to know what app was sending them. Gunnar initially tried to deflect and said that maybe I had misread the notifications, but when I pressed him on it, he finally admitted that he had been monitoring my text messages. Gunnar said that he had set up the monitoring because he was feeling insecure in our relationship and wanted to make sure I wasn't talking to other guys or planning to break up with him. He said that he had been using a monitoring app that forwards copies of my text messages to his phone and that he had been reading them to understand me better. I was absolutely horrified. I asked Gunnar how he had gained access to my text messages, and he said that he had set up the monitoring when I had briefly left my phone unattended at his apartment a few months ago. Gunnar said that it had only taken him a few minutes to install the monitoring software and that I hadn't noticed because the app runs invisibly in the background. I realized that this explained how Gunnar had known about my rarely worn jewelry pieces. He had been reading my text messages with friends where I had mentioned sentimental pieces or talked about my jewelry collection. It also explained how he always seemed to know about my plans and conversations. He wasn't being observant or intuitive. He was literally reading my private communications. I told Gunnar that secretly monitoring my text messages was a serious violation of my privacy and completely unacceptable in any relationship. Gunnar said that he understood why I was upset, but that he had been motivated by love and insecurity, not by any desire to control or hurt me. He said that the expensive jewelry box had been his way of showing me how much he cared about me, and that he had used the information from my text messages to make sure the gift would be perfect. I told Gunnar that using information obtained through surveillance to manipulate my emotions was not romantic. It was abusive. Gunnar said that he had never thought of it that way, and that he had just been trying to be the best boyfriend he could be. But I told Gunnar that secretly monitoring someone's communications is fundamentally incompatible with being a good partner because it violates the basic trust and respect that relationships required. When I asked Gunnar how long he had been monitoring my messages, he said that he had started about 3 months into our relationship. This meant that Gunnar had been violating my privacy for more than half of our relationship, and that much of our intimacy had been based on information he had obtained through deception. I told Gunnar that I couldn't continue our relationship given the extent of his privacy violations and dishonest behavior. Gunnar begged me to reconsider, saying that he would remove the monitoring software immediately and never violate my privacy again. He said that he had learned his lesson and just wanted a chance to prove that he could be trustworthy. But I told Gunnar that the problem wasn't just the monitoring. It was the fact that he had been willing to violate my privacy so extensively and then lie about it for months. I also told Gunnar that his behavior showed a fundamental lack of respect for my autonomy and boundaries, which couldn't be fixed by simply removing an app. Gunnar said that he understood why I was upset, but that he thought breaking up was an extreme reaction to what he characterized as a mistake, born out of love and insecurity. But I told Gunnar that secretly monitoring someone's communications for months wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate pattern of invasive behavior. Final update, 2 weeks later. I wanted to provide a final update on this situation because it's reached a resolution, and I think my experience might be helpful for others who find themselves in similar situations. After I told Gunnar that I wanted to end our relationship, his response confirmed that I had made the right decision. Instead of accepting my decision and giving me space, Gunnar began an intensive campaign to convince me to change my mind. Over the next few days, Gunnar sent me numerous messages explaining why he thought my reaction was disproportionate and why we should work through our problems together. In his messages, Gunnar alternated between apologizing for his behavior and arguing that his actions hadn't been as serious as I was making them out to be. He said that monitoring my text messages wasn't fundamentally different from couples who share social media passwords, and that his motivation had been love rather than control. Gunnar also repeatedly emphasized how much time and money he had invested in our relationship, particularly the custom jewelry box, and said that I was throwing away something special over a communication issue. When I didn't respond to his messages, Gunnar escalated his efforts to contact me. He started showing up at my apartment uninvited, claiming that he just wanted to talk and resolve our differences. When I didn't answer the door, he would leave gifts with notes attached. Most concerning was when Gunnar began contacting my friends and family members, telling them that we had broken up over a misunderstanding and asking them to convince me to give him another chance. My friend Sarah told me that Gunnar had called her to explain his side of the story and to ask for advice on how to win me back. According to Sarah, Gunnar presented the situation as a minor privacy issue that had gotten blown out of proportion and portrayed me as being unreasonably unforgiving. Sarah said that Gunnar had spent a long time describing how much effort he had put into planning my birthday gift and how hurt he was that I wasn't appreciating his thoughtfulness. But when Sarah asked Gunnar directly about the text message monitoring, he became evasive and tried to minimize the extent of his surveillance. My sister told me that Gunnar had contacted her as well, expressing concern about my mental state and suggesting that I might be having an irrational reaction to relationship stress. Gunnar told my sister that my response to his gift had been paranoid and that he was worried I might need professional help to deal with my trust issues. When my sister called me to check on me, I realized that Gunnar was trying to undermine my credibility by convincing people close to me that my concerns about his behavior were signs of mental instability. I decided that I needed to take more decisive action to protect myself from Gunnar's continued attempts to contact and manipulate me. I blocked Gunnar on all social media platforms and changed my phone number. I also had my phone checked by a tech-savvy friend to make sure all monitoring software had been completely removed. I asked my apartment building's management to remove Gunnar from the authorized visitor list and to not allow him access to the building. I told my friends and family members the full extent of Gunnar's surveillance and privacy violations and asked them not to share information about me with him or to pass along messages from him. Most of my friends and family were supportive once I explained what had really happened. Sarah said that Gunnar's call had felt manipulative and that she was glad I had told her the complete story. My sister said that Gunnar's suggestions about my mental state had seemed inappropriate and concerning, and that she was proud of me for trusting my instincts. However, a few people in my life thought I was being too harsh and that I should have given Gunnar a second chance to prove he could change. My aunt said that Gunnar's behavior sounded like the actions of someone who is insecure in love rather than genuinely malicious, and that breaking up with him seemed extreme. But I explained to my aunt that secretly monitoring someone's communications for months isn't a sign of insecurity. It's a pattern of controlling behavior that violates the basic trust required for healthy relationships. After about 10 days of no contact, Gunnar's attempts to reach me finally stopped. I heard through mutual friends that he had started dating someone new, which honestly came as a relief. It's been 2 weeks since I last heard from Gunnar, and I'm feeling much more at peace with my decision to end our relationship. Looking back, I can see that there were other signs of Gunnar's controlling tendencies that I had dismissed or rationalized away. Gunnar had always been very interested in the details of my daily life and had asked a lot of questions about my friends, my work, and my activities. I had thought this was a sign that he cared about me, but now I realize it was part of his pattern of surveillance and information gathering. Gunnar had also been subtly critical of some of my friendships and had expressed concern about certain people in my life, not understanding our relationship or not having my best interests at heart. At the time, I thought Gunnar was just being protective, but now I see that he was trying to isolate me from people who might help me recognize his problematic behavior. The expensive jewelry box, which had initially seemed like such a thoughtful and romantic gesture, now feels like a symbol of how Gunnar was using information obtained through surveillance to manipulate my emotions and create a false sense of intimacy. I've learned that genuine thoughtfulness in relationships comes from paying attention during normal interactions and communications, not from secretly monitoring someone's private activities. For anyone who might be dealing with similar situations, trust your instincts when something feels wrong, even if you can't immediately articulate why. Partners who truly respect you will respect your privacy and boundaries, even when they disagree with them. If someone is monitoring your communications or going through your personal belongings without your knowledge or consent, that's not love, it's control. And if someone tries to convince you that your concerns about privacy violations are signs of mental instability or relationship problems, that's manipulation, and it's a serious red flag. I'm grateful that I trusted my instincts about Gunnar's gift and investigated further, rather than dismissing my concerns as paranoia. My intuition was trying to protect me from someone who didn't respect my autonomy or boundaries. I'm moving forward with confidence that I made the right decision, even though it was difficult at the time.